Now I'm going to run the end of chapter 3 here together with chapter 4 because they start to bring together that aspect of the labor that Victor undergoes when he is creating his offspring. And of course, labor is what women do when they go through childbirth. But he says, the labors of men of genius, however erroneously directed, scarcely ever fail in ultimately turning to the solid advantage of mankind. Now, of course, labor just means work. But as he begins to create his offspring, we see that labor takes on a different meaning. He's also saying that even though those philosophers, maybe they don't exactly know what they're doing and they're on the wrong track, but what the heck? It usually, almost always, benefits humans. And then he ends the chapter by saying, thus ended a day memorable to me. It decided my future destiny. Again, that mythic theme of destiny. And so then he decides, after hearing Waldman talk, that he is setting out on a path to make humans indestructible. At one point, he even says that he wants to create a human that will only die through some horrific means. He's hit over the head with a beam or something like that, but that old age and illness will not touch him. And so he begins his labor. He says, though, to examine the causes of life, we must first have recourse to death, because life and death are so like this. And that is what he begins to do. He begins to study the dead. And again, he is not invested with the idea of the supernatural. Victor's not creating a zombie. It's not the same thing as where we have seen other dead coming to life. That is not his purpose. And as he begins then to study the dead, at one point he says, in the midst of the darkness, a sudden light broke in upon me, a light so brilliant and wondrous, yet so simple, that while I became dizzy with the immensity of the prospect it illustrated, I was surprised. And he goes on to say he was surprised because all of these brilliant men had studied it, but yet he, Victor, was the one who cracked the code because he sees it as his fate. And again, it is that hubristic attitude. And then he goes on to say, after days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, I succeeded in discovering the cause of generation and life. Now, he never says what that is. And I've mentioned electricity or galvanism several times, and it is widely accepted that this is how he brings the creature to life, but he never specifically says that. But he says now he is capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. And again, you have that labor image attached to the creation of light. And then he still is going on about how knowledge is dangerous. But at this point, he doesn't understand how dangerous knowledge is. And so he knows how to do this. So he has to have something that he can reanimate. And he says, I possess the capacity of bestowing animation, yet to prepare a frame for the reception of it with all the intricacies of fibers, muscles, and veins still remained a work of inconceivable difficulty and labor. Got those words again. And so he begins the creation of a human being. And he decides to make this being of gigantic stature so it will be easier to put together. It's a very practical application of that. And he says, life and death appeared to me ideal bounds which I should first break through and pour a torrent of light into our dark world. A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. No father could claim the gratitude of his child so completely as I should deserve theirs. He is saying, I will be God. Whoop! double whammy of setting nature and saying, hey, I'm going to be a god. The gods don't like that. Regardless of the gods in question, whether it is Yahweh, whether it is Zeus, whether it is Odin, it doesn't matter. Humans should not seek to be deities. And that is exactly what Victor is doing.